Hi everyone, welcome to part 1 of all Ragdoll Tech and Duck game, or probably mostly all discovered Ragdoll Tech and Duck game. I'm assuming I'm going to need to split this into 2 parts because there's a lot to cover, and I would say a lot of this tech is probably incredibly useful for most movement and just you can use it in every single game. So this is probably going to be one of my most important videos, and yeah, hope you enjoy. To start off, I want to talk about the basic properties of the Ragdoll. So when you press Ragdoll, you go into the Ragdoll state, and it's completely random, like what direction you fall. And so that's like the one part of the Ragdoll is that there's a lot of randomness involved with it. But I'll talk about that a bit later. So the main thing to know is that when you're in a Ragdoll, you can press left, right to nudge yourself around. And the amount that you get nudged is random. And then you can also press up to nudge yourself, but it's if you're on the ground. Like, for example, I have jump and up bounce the same thing, so if I were to nudge myself up, then I would just get up. Because to unragdoll, you can either press unragdoll or you can press jump, and both work. But you can only unragdoll when you're on the ground. And there's like one key exception to this, which I'll talk about in a minute. So basic tech with this is Ragdolls are mostly used for movement and clipping. And so in terms of movement, I would say basic tech is the Beak Grab, is what I call it. So your duck can jump, I think it's like 3.5 blocks. So in this case, this is 4 blocks tall, I'm pretty sure. So what you can do is you can Ragdoll at the end. And your Ragdoll, sort of like your beak will grab it, just like this. Because your Ragdoll segment is split into 2 different parts. So if I show collision, you can see how when I fall, my Ragdoll segment is split into like the upper part, which is around my head, which is the red box around my head, and the lower part, which is the red box around my feet. And then there's like a little dot in the middle that connects the 2 parts, and that's like invisible. And so what's really cool is that bullets can actually pass through there, just like this. But then again, it is like very rare for that to happen, and whoever's shooting is really unlucky. But the main thing is when you jump, your Ragdoll segments can like sort of get in between on either side of the wall, and you can just jump when you're up here, and that will allow you to get up an extra half a block. So what you can also do with the Ragdoll Beak Grab is if you're falling, you can use it to like get yourself up like this, something like that, where you like Ragdoll in the end and then quickly jump, and you can save yourself that way, which is nice. And I do want to mention that Ragdoll physics are different online and offline. So everything I'm discussing here is all online physics, and if there's something that doesn't work in offline, then I'll mention that. So yeah, and also some stuff works worse in offline or maybe better in offline, and I can try to experiment around with that and show you guys. Okay, so the main Ragdoll tech uses, it's called the Ragdoll Jump, and I would say it's probably the most important movement tech in the game. So how it works is when you press Ragdoll twice, you see how I appear, how when I unragdoll, I'm off like a block in the air. And so this allows me, because there's a game mechanic, when you're falling off a block or when you leave a block, you have 7 frames where you can jump. So I can jump even though I'm like way off. So like I'm sort of jumping off of air. And this is very neat because what you can do is, because after you double Ragdoll, you then have like a few frames. I think it's going to be like the 7, they're called coyote frames, based off the cartoon. But you'll have 7 coyote frames to do a jump, and then this will give you an extra block of height. So you see, normally when I jump up here, I would have to do a beak grab, and if I want to make that super consistent, I can hold into the wall while I'm doing that to make sure the Ragdoll randomness doesn't just like send me flying the other way or move me the other way. But what you can do is you can just do a Ragdoll jump to get up here, and this gives you anywhere between a block and an extra block and a half of height. So if I were to do a Ragdoll jump here, if you do like a perfect one, you can gain an extra I think it's like a block and a half. But you can get different heights within like the 1.5 blocks, so you can get, I think, anywhere from like a little bit below the 1.5 blocks extra height to the full 1.5 blocks, and that just depends where you jump after you double ragdoll. So like here I'm getting it very consistently, but if I were to like jump really fast afterwards, then I don't get the full blocks of height, as you can see, and I can't make it over. But yeah, you'll once you do it a bit, then you'll figure out like what timing you want to use. But the main thing is this is just super useful for getting up like extra high places, and it's just really good for traversing the map. And then I also want to talk about how item spawners impact ragdolls. So because item spawners like suck in items, so like if there's an item placed like in the middle here, it will just like naturally go to one of the item spawners. And so item spawners also suck in ragdolls. So if you're to ragdoll near it, your ragdoll will sort of get like stuck in the spawner. As you can see, it's a little glitching out a little bit. And so if I were to try to do a double ragdoll, it doesn't let me because you can only unragdoll when your body is on the ground, aside from like the Ragdoll Jump where you have extra 7 coyote frames. But normally you can only unragdoll when you're on the ground. So if I'm in the air and I try to spam like jump or unragdoll, it won't let me unragdoll. It's the same principle for the spawner, where if I ragdoll on it, you see I'm sort of like not on the ground for a little bit. So it takes me like an extra like second or so to get up, even if I'm spamming jump. So if I were to try to double ragdoll, it just sort of pulls you down and it doesn't let you get off the ground fully. So the next ragdoll tech I want to talk about is super jumps. And so how this works is after you do a ragdoll jump, because you see I can't get up there, I'm not jumping high enough. But after you do a ragdoll jump, if you ragdoll again and then tap upwards, so like you're nudging your duck upwards, which is like how nudges worked I told you before, where you can nudge left to right and you can also nudge up. But so if I were to like jump in the air and then like jump in the air, ragdoll, and then spam up or jump or whatever the key is to nudge your duck upwards, then it can give me, it's also random like how much each boost gives you, but then it can give me enough speed and like height to get up to the top. Okay, so the next sort of like super ragdoll jump I want to talk about is, it's not super useful in terms of there's not many scenarios where this can be used. And it only works if there's an item spawner, just like, because this is 2 blocks tall. So if there's an item spawner like 2 blocks next to the wall or next to the edge, and it also has to be on a thinner block like office blocks. And so how it works is because item spawners will suck you upwards and like into them. So what you want to do is if you're here and you just press ragdoll, you'll sort of get like pushed upwards. And so if you hold into the wall and then ragdoll, it works like 100% of the time. And so you get pushed upwards. But what happens if you hold into the wall and do a ragdoll jump, then it will push you up like even higher. And so like before I needed a super jump to get this high. But now I can just do it with this. And I can show the map that it would be used at. In terms of where the instant unragdoll like item spawner jump is useful, is on this map. It's Office 02, but the 8-player version. So if you stand right here and hold into the wall, you can get like flung up here, and then you can do like a ragdoll jump. And if you stop holding, if you just tap right for like the slightest bit once you ragdoll, then you can curve like around this and jump up here pretty easily, although it does take some practice and like getting used to in terms of the timing, something like that. But like you want to curve back around a little bit faster, just like that. And one useful thing with super jumps is when you're like going very fast to like one side, you can use your ragdoll nudges to get like to boost your momentum, and so your ragdoll nudges will be much more helpful if you're going at a faster speed, and they'll make you go much farther. Like so for what you just saw there, like I can get to the other side faster if I do a super jump and use my ragdoll nudges like this, like I got here pretty fast, versus if I just walk. And you can really see the difference of how much faster I really go. The only thing I would say is that doing this, it's like hard to move out of the way of someone. Like if they're, if someone is like coming at you with a gun, it's probably not the best idea. Maybe it's a good idea to escape because you can go very fast. But I would say it's like it's like unwieldy and you can't really maneuver around other things. Like if there's like a block right here, you're kind of just stuck because you'll just like hit your face into it. But you won't really go anywhere. So it's useful, but not in that many circumstances. Okay, so the next useful tech I want to talk about is super useful, but it's online only, unfortunately, and this just doesn't work offline. So it's called instant unragdolling. And how it works is if you go next to like the lip of a wall, in this case it's called like a nib, but if you go next to this or like a box or like a platform, like you see over here, like it will work on these also, and you just go next to it and you just ragdoll. You see, I only ragdoll once, but it just puts me up a block, just like ragdolling twice for an instant, for like a normal ragdoll jump. So that's why it's called an instant unragdoll. So what you can just do is you can chain a jump at the end of it, and you can get up the same height as a ragdoll jump, and it's much faster because you don't need to do the double ragdoll, and you can chain it to get up certain maps very fast, and so it works like, I'm not going to say anywhere, but like as long as the object is like 1 block tall, or like the top of the object is 1 block tall, it will work. And so like just like crates, but it won't work on like stuff like rocks and tables if their hitbox is normal. But I'll show a way in a later video that you can instant unragdoll off rocks. And one thing I will add that's also very useful is normally like if you have a helmet and you ragdoll, the helmet's just going to fall off. But what you can do is if you, like in terms of a normal ragdoll jump, if you do a normal ragdoll jump and you press immediately grab shoot right after you get it out of the ragdoll, you can put it back on your head. And that's very useful, especially for instant unragdolls. So you can sort of like travel around with the helmet. It just won't work if you're like holding something with the helmet, because you can only hold one thing at a time. But it does work with like snipers and stuff. So like you can do something like this, where if you grab at the same time, or I mean not any snipers, just like any guns in general, where if you're pointed upwards like this, if you're like against the wall and the gun is pointed upwards, the hitbox will be higher. So if you ragdoll grab, jump, you can do that. It also works with boxes. Like if the box is like here, you can do something like that. If you're instant unragdolling of something other than the box, you can do it. And because the box hitbox is high enough, you can do it while you're strafing, just like that. It just matters where the top of the hitbox is and if you can grab it or not. But I don't think you can actually do it if the box it's... never mind, you can. I'm just lying. You can, like if you're instant ragdolling a box, you can grab the box. So yeah, it's very useful. What's also nice is that if you're like trying to get like a sniper or something else someplace high and you can only use ragdoll jump, if you just flutter like this and throw the gun up, you can ragdoll jump up and grab it again. So like that's one way you can do it if you can't do it instant on ragdoll, and that's one way to get the item up there. So yeah, and it also works for like angle saves, because this does angle save the gun. Because if I'm fluttering and throwing it up, then I just need to turn and like do an angle save there. And if you're not sure how to do an angle save, you should check my video on that. But it is very useful because you can get up higher than just doing a normal angle save on the floor. I would say one of the most useful spots for instant unragdolling in terms of movement is on this map, especially because there's a lot of boxes you can instant unragdoll off of, and if you want to get up here to the pistol, what you can do is something like this. Or this. And the main thing is that there's just like a lot of different variations. So like you can just, if you're like doing like this, you can just jump off of the top of the box and just ragdoll up here. Or you can like go through and do a full ragdoll up here, so you don't need to like beak grab or whatever. But one thing you want to do for this box especially is you want to delay your ragdoll slightly. You want to do it towards the end of the box, Otherwise, you're just going to bonk your head up here. So I also like it a lot for this map. If you want to get to the Magnum spawn first and you don't want to do the pistol, what you can do is something like this and get up here very fast. And that's also very good. What you can do is like, or if someone's like going to go for the spawn down here where they're going to get the pistol, what you can also do instead is grab the box here and just toss it on them when they go to grab the pistol. And so what you can do to avoid this and counter this strat is if you can just jump up here to grab the thing instead of going here. Because there's a lot of maps where you can just throw a box there and crush someone trying to get the gun. And it's very easy to like avoid that, and it's also very easy to get kills doing that. I just wanted to mention that when you're falling, like if you're like, let's say you want to catch this platform and you need to ragdoll, you can't really instant unragdoll off of it. Like you can't do the full instant unragdoll jump, like you would be able to if you just came from the ground. And this is because you haven't had like the 7 coyote frames or whatever. So like if you're falling, you can do like a jump or whatever, but you can't like do a ragdoll jump. You can't get a full jump off. So for example, like I can do like an instant ragdoll here, but let's say I'm falling, I can't actually get like a full jump because it will like I haven't been on the ground for 7 frames, or for like for less than 7 frames. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's gonna be all for this tech video on part 1 of Ragdoll tech. I really hope you enjoyed. So yeah, please share this video with anyone who might be interested, and leave a comment if you have any questions. I should be finished with the part 2 of the video in a few days, so look out for that. And that video will cover rag dashes, wall bounces, like ragdoll grabbing, like how to throw ragdolls very well, and other more advanced ragdoll tech. Keep on duck gaming. Peace.